Black Swan's a 90-acre gravel pit, quite a lot of carping compared to lakes that sort of usually spend a lot of time fishing. There's 400 sort of plus fish in here, so they say. I mean, a lot of the attraction is there's a lot of fish that, should we say, uncaught, a little bit of mystery. Obviously lots of sort of rumours, unknown, big uns, but just out the ones that do get caught, you know, there's sort of two linears, real long fish, sort of over the 40 pound. Incredible carp, you know, there's a big common in here as well. They call Petty's Common. I mean, he ain't been caught now for, Christ, never got caught last season and most of the season before, so last capture, you know, getting up towards 47 pound. Each year it tends to throw a new 30 pounder or a new 40 pounder. So it's that element of surprise that's the main attraction, you know, never knowing what's on the end, and not every fish you catch has got a name. First trip was middle of February. I got down sort of early in the morning after a bit of a lead about in the bay. It seemed that, you know, there was no weed anywhere. It had completely depleted over the winter. And with that, you know, I sort of started where I left off. I was catching them out at range between the islands all the way up until my last trip, you know, into sort of like December. Fished a swim they call Suicide, which sort of chuck out along at the island. Obviously wind permitted, you know, we'd had a lot of sort of west-southwest, which is really ideal for the wind over your back in that swim. So 5-ounce zips, just smash a bare lead out there, literally tighten up to the spot, line on the shoulder, and then, you know what I mean, you can't use an engine on there, it's so much easier if you could, but line over your shoulder, sort of pinch between your neck almost and sort of row out as your sort of leader knot would pass over, you know. Take the 5-ounce zip lead off, put a nice big 6-ounce gripper on there and uplink, bosh it down there on the spot, no messing about, you know, a few baits and out of there. Sort of like fishing that Suicide area, obviously you're chucking on the side of an island, you've got a bush. It's perhaps about 150 yards to that bush, because when you start going sort of like, you know, 20 yards behind that, it really starts to become quite interesting. It's quite shallow, it drops down a little bit. Named the Honey Hole by quite a few of the members on there over the years. You know, it's an area they sort of spend a lot of time. I mean, quite typically that area, you know, 90% of what you caught was daylight hours. Although you did catch odd ones from that area through the night time, you know, you count them on one hand. Like I say, 90% of what you caught. As soon as 9 o'clock in the morning come, on with the waders, sit next to the rods. Daytime bites all the while, really. Yeah, I mean, it was, you know, sort of 14, 15 degrees, I think, at one point in a t-shirt. You know, it felt like spring.
Loving this weather, Baz?
For me, hook sharpness is absolutely everything. When you're recasting, do you know what I mean? You're fishing a gravel pit, there's raised areas, bits you'll be winding in. After every cast, you know, you're checking, the file in the pocket, just making sure it is 100%. Every time you pick that rod up, you know, literally it could be one that's been stocked in or grown on, you know, double figure carp, or you could be attached to one that they talk about, you know, and they've never really sort of seen the bank. Magic place, you know, and every time you get that bite, you know what I mean, like you go in, you got that buzz, and I suppose until you lose that, you know, you are fishing the right lake. Obviously there's a lot of carp in the lake, you know, a lot of sort of 20-pound carp as well, and they probably do build up majority of sort of like your captures. And if you catch 15 carp, you might catch a couple of 30-pounders amongst them. Or you might have a run of sort of 20-pounders, you know, I have done that. But, you know, it ain't just, oh, it's a 20-pounder. You look at them in the net going, check him out, you know, amazing looking things. And a lot of them are big 20-pounders, you know, the year after, you might not see them for a few years. I can guarantee, you know, 32, 35. It's the buzz of the place. They go years unseen. Real joy. Well, for so many years, I'd sort of, you know, the lakes had fish for 10, 15 fish a year, you know, that was a good year. I mean, there's some good years on Stone Acres. I think I had 27 one year on there, which was a bit of a freak year, you know, but you're certainly 20 fish a year fishing. So whereas, you know, I think I hooked 93 or 94 fish, sort of like from April to April last year on here. Every time the rod goes, you know, big sort of like panic on, you know, it could be. So yeah, you're getting that adrenaline and that buzz, you know, that we all go fishing for. Just a lot more on here. And most of the time, you know what I mean, with hooking them out at range, you're using sort of, 0.30, 10 pound mono and a tapered leader. They're just tightening up at that sort of range. It is dog on a lead, there's no weed out there. Everyone you hook, I've had 15 pound commons until they popped up, I think, this is a big one, this is a big one. It's not until they sort of get under the tips that they start rooking. But yeah, they hold on a little bit. Although you do catch a lot of carp from that lake, and there is so many good-looking ones, there's certainly a few that sort of stand out. And that typically I can catch this lovely grey mirror. I think it's 28, 29 pound, a couple of big scales in the middle of his body, bit of an overslung mouth, and them ones definitely stand out. There's an handful in there, look pretty similar, and around the same sort of weight as well. And yeah, like I say, there's bangers and then there's bangers, isn't there? I mean, I'd fished quite late onto the autumn that year, well into sort of, I think I had a few trips into December, but certainly caught them up until the last week in November, again fishing that central area. Big change in weather. Like I say, it was the first trip actually back on there, sort of early February. And like I say, it warmed up considerably, so headed straight for that area, but 8 bites on that first trip back, it was just sort of mind-blowing. Just thinking, kicking myself for not coming back earlier, I suppose. Like I say, there've been so many sort of like good-looking fish in the lake, but there's some that just sort of really do stand out. And I'd screenshotted several that I'd sort of found years-old pictures on the Dinton site. One in particular, real sort of heavily scaled mirror, and actually went on to catching that trip. It was one that I really, really dearly wanted to catch. Special carp indeed, big overslung mouth, years between captures, carp perfection, We're sort of like middle of March now. Spring sort of well on the way, water's warmed up considerably, but as with that sort of, the lake's become sort of quite busier as well. The areas that I was catching them, obviously one in, one out almost, lads are out of the woodwork now. Sort of, the fish are well active as well, sort of showing all around the lake, sort of fishing in the big sort of South Park bays, it's known. A lot of up and down in there, a lot of shallow ground, deep ground, and it's a playground for them, they do spend a lot of time out there. But as well, we're fishing that sort of like the range game, if you like. It's very, very weather dependent. Big winds, anything to do with a northerly in them two sort of central swims, complete nightmare, wind blowing into the island. And I think that's what we had that trip, big northerlies pumping in there. The more we got into sort of end of March, April, spring well and truly upon us, there's a lot of lads getting on there and fishing. And them central areas, they do come back into play again. And quite busy. I remember myself quite a few times. I remember once getting the bottle, getting there early, and literally I just saw a lad go like that with his barrow. And, I don't think he caught. I don't think he could fish much past 100 yards, the chap sort of talking about. But it's one of them trips, they were out there. There was certainly a nit to be had on the cards out there that week. Yeah, it's turned out to be a crazy trip really. Been sort of done the 2 nights near and ended up with 11 and lost one so far. That big unit that I caught in the summer last year, just over 45, we had him again, 44.10. You could tell, we sort of picked it up fishing out there, like I say, 160 yards, and it's just holding its ground, it's going right, left, but not gaining nothing on anything. Like it's anything, it's took a further 10, 20 yards of line off me. Stuck the net under it, no torch for me at the time. It was sort of, yeah, it's a big one. And yeah, sure enough, got a torch in him, and it turned out to be the one I caught last summer, the unit. Weighed him up, 44.10 he was. Obviously not ideal with a repeat, but it can't be helped, I suppose. You want to catch as many as you can to sort of get the ones that you want to get. It's inevitable, I suppose. But yeah, big buzz all the same. If we're talking about these fish that, like the main ones that we want to catch, the petties, common, a couple of linears, they've only been caught, an handful of times each, 4, 5, 6 captures of each sort of fish, maybe less of some of the others. So, but certain areas do crop up. Everywhere I've fished, I've always sort of gone for catch as many as you can, and the ones you'll want will come along, you know. I can't sort of sit down the end thinking, right, well, that fish got caught here this time last year and not be on fish. Like I say, this area I'm fishing now, last year, I caught a lot from it, but a lot of small fish. And over the course of the season, I sort of half convinced myself, I suppose, that it wasn't the area to catch the bigger ones. But yet, this spring, it's done more big fish than anywhere else on the lake. So I can only go off, you know, what's been caught and what I've seen myself. You know, if I see a big longfish jump out somewhere, I put myself in that area. The more you do something, the better you become at it. But you know, you're whacking it out there, you've got to hit the clip that hard. You're almost trying to feel that drop in sort of 5 foot of water, you know, on a 10-pound mono. It's hitting that clip, like I say, quite hard enough to get that drop. And it's just repeating doing that. Like I say, I'm fishing quite firm areas, surrounded by quite soft ground. So if I don't get that, I'll cast again, cast again. You know, like I say, you're fishing sort of raised gravel areas. I really sharpen the hooks up. As saying before, you know, you tie up sort of 3 spare rigs per rod, so you know you're moving into a swim with 10 in the box tied up. You know, you'd be cast out, no, just short, come back, up point, chop it off, next one on, back out there. You know, if you're not ready for that, you know, it'd be 2 o'clock in the morning, you might think, oh, you know, it's just a mission. But no, just keep plugging away and keep firing them back out there. Obviously, can result in sort of results like that last night, you know.
Do you get frustrated yourself?
Oh God, yeah. Spod rods have been thrown down the bank, fishing rods, you know. Seriously, lose your times, yeah. I mean, like today, big crosswinds, you could be at it for hours. We lost the joy of being able to sort of whack the lead out there, a bare lead, follow it out, and then position it to the block, you know. I think a few people were abusing that rule and taking rods out at night and dropping rigs. So yeah, that put an end to that. So now you can't touch your rig, you can't touch your line. It's back to how Stoneacres was. You go out there, you drop your blocks, you cast at your blocks. If the water clarity allows, get your viewer, have a look, bait up and back. I mean, I haven't seen the bottom of the lake or my rig since sort of June of last year. You know, the water's clarity has been really sort of murky. I suppose the weed growth as a result of that is still quite low. So, like I say, it allows you to sort of fish out in areas where they do spend a lot of time. You know, that double row linear, you know, he's about as good as carp get. Perfect linear. Sort of double row towards his back end, a couple of sort of scales dotted around him, you know. Very sort of stocky fish and, you know, very, very powerful carp as well. But, you know, not a blemish on him. The colours of him, sort of, he's just as good as they get, you know. That's why all them hours in a van, all them sort of putting up with the hours, chaos, public. It's what you do it for, moments like that, you know, you're looking at it and you think, oh, that's it, you know. Mega buzz. Along that golf bank where Peg Ford is, chaos, absolutely chaos. Number of times wrapping sticks have been stolen. Well, you know, say stolen. I've woke up a few times just heard ching ching. Little kids have whipped them out the ground while he's sword fighting with them. It's mental. But I suppose in that sense there's always something going on, you know, you go and sit them pits. When I sort of spent that time fishing that boating lake, you know, unless it was a mate sort of arranging to come down for a tea, you wouldn't see anybody. You know, someone would come in the swim after 3 days, it'd be like, don't go, you know, another tea. So as the flip side of that, there's always something going on, there's always someone, you know. The amount of times you'd hear it, you'd have a fish on the bank, oh, you need a big bag of chips, go with him, you know. It's so many times, it's chaos. Dropped back into Peg Ford the following week after that 11 fish hit, including the unit and that big double row linear. Couldn't believe it really, rocked up on the Sunday, walked down the path. Really expected someone to be in there, so no one in there, dropped my bottle in there, sort of a starting point. Got the rods out and the sort of session continued as the last one sort of ended really. Early hours of the morning, the ratter rod was away. Thought it was a big fish from the off. But it turned out to be one I caught the previous autumn. It was 38 pound 10 ounce in the September. It looked considerably bigger, and 43 pound 10 that time. And that was sort of followed up with I think a couple of 20 pound mirrors and a 25 pound common. It's really, really busy. So the amount of times I've been beaten to the swim by minutes in the last sort of week, 3, 4, 5 times, fancy a move, wind in, grab the bucket, come round, mate your boys just walked in there. Or the other week I was up in the bay, walked down early morning, watching fish showing, literally ran back, wound them in, grabbed the bucket, run up here, the barra in one swim, bucket in another, bucket in another. You know, you just think, ah, so that can get quite frustrating, but hopefully as we sort of go into the summer and the joys of the Park Lake grow, then obviously people do tend to drop off a lot. So hopefully it'll quieten up a little bit. You know, we're sort of getting down there most weeks. Before you know it, you know, you're middle of May, warming right up. And we're on there. I'd sort of caught quite a few good fish from an area, seen them, you know, boshing, fizzing. But down the other end, I think a sort of small group of the smaller males had started chasing around, and a guy had sort of wound a load of eggs, and apparently they were having to go spawning deep down. So, as typical every year, you know, lake shut. But one of the smaller lakes in the complex, Tufty's Lake, meant to have a nice mirror in there. So, sort of permission off Simon. He said, yeah, carry on over there. Come down each week. So it was a perfect opportunity to come down, carry on that lead work, clip up for spots, bait areas, you know. The weed was coming up thick and fast, so being able to sort of apply bait on some areas, all around the pond as well, I suppose, not just pick a swim and bait it, 7, 8, 10 spots. And quite close to the bank, you know, the weeds getting up, the boats only become more of a problem. So the further you fish out, the more of an headache you're going to have. You know, there's more things to go wrong, so we're trying to keep it closer in, you know, 10 wraps, catapult range. It was nice to sort of apply spawn here, there and everywhere. Do a lap, spawn rod, bucket, wrapping sticks. Equally, get out in the boat, you know, it's an opportunity to sort of see what they're up to with no angling pressure, and, you know, it's amazing how much they like natural carp. Here, there and everywhere, you know. Within a few days of the lines back out in the water, back to the Dinton carp. Yeah, quite clear remember that first trip back when it reopened. I know not the first sort of few days, the first few days that I could fish. I think it reopened typically on the Friday, got down there on the Sunday, and actually dropped into a swim that I'd actually spent a bit of time putting a bit of bait. And oh yeah, ridiculously hot, scorching, you know, 32, 33, not much wind, red hot. So warm I can remember finding quite a few in there, you know, in close in the corner. And even if I go from the floaters, typically, you know, crewed up to them, knows them. The birds were more interested and sort of ruined the chance before it was over. The weed was coming up thick and fast, and the area that I'd sort of started again, if you like, was an area that I sort of left. Had a right good result, sort of as it shut, you know. It's quite shallow, and as it was warming up, they were getting into that area. Put a little bit of bait, and it was, you know, it was visual that they were getting there. With that warm weather, it was an area that I headed straight back to, you know, they love it there. A little bit of easterly, red hot, they do tend to get around that area quite a bit. And yeah, I mean, they were visually there, right into the corner. And if 30s bait they call it, if they're right in there, you know, they do tend to push out in that area at night. The spot that I'd caught from, like I say before it is shut, is a spot that I carried on putting a little bit of bait onto. With the amount of fish in the area, I decided to go quite heavy. You know, I gave them a full bucket of particles, 3 or 4 kilo of boilies. Yeah, I remember getting up in the morning and it looked dead. Really did look dead. As the sun started to climb, a little pocket of fizz, a little pocket of fizz. Definitely one on the spot, one became 2, 3, 4, you know, they were arriving and in drones. One jump out of the spot, bang, bite. I see the weed was getting up quite a lot now. And look at this one in particular, in typical sort of Dinton style, one of these fishes really sort of took off. Grounded to a halt almost, you know, there's no sort of pulling them back there. Although using sort of strong 15-pound line, not wanting to put any pressure on him or not much pressure on him, jumped straight into the boat. Remember sort of cruising past the spot, sort of seeing it, and you can see it sort of glowing. 2 fish have took off, got above it, scoops him up, but remember sort of gliding past the spot. You see 2 or 3 sort of bolt off with it, so there's clearly a group of fish sort of pushed into that area. And yeah, that was, I think I ended up catching 8 that trip, all from that area as well. I mean, that trip had a beautiful, I think it was 25, 12, almost a completely fully scaled on both sides of him. He's actually the one that went mental when I hooked him. Big boat battle with him. You know, they don't like it at all. And also that trip, a really lovely long lean common. I think it was 29-14, clearly a mid-30, you know, flat, hollow, completely spawned out. Obviously why he's jumped on the bait, you know, I thought of it after the spawning, give him a load. They clearly made use of that, you know, they needed feeding. So yeah, sort of continued to fish hard, sort of all the way through the autumn, you know, well into November. Yeah, then sort of pulled off, you know, I'd gone hard all summer, autumn, and had a little bit of a break from it, I suppose. You know, before you know it, everything's waking up, as with the carp, fishing out in them central areas again. And sort of thought, you know, here we go again. Sort of third spring at it, if you like. is he going to come? Will one of them big ones come? Little did I know something very special was about to happen. Remember the big moon sort of, you know, just looked and felt like something special was going to happen. Even sort of two of my mates that had been down said, this week, your dream's going to happen this week, boy. And it was one of them trips that sort of turned up. Lad had caught one out of there that had been sort of fishing it. Weekend angler. I think he'd had a couple out of there, sort of most trips. Had a nice 28-pound linear in the net, done pictures, he's got off, sort of dropped in there. That morning was ridiculous. You know, I've probably seen 20 shows in the first sort of 10 minutes. That first sort of brew with him, you know, bosh, bosh, bosh. And they were all over the gap, not sort of like grouped up in any sort of area. Clearly a lot of fish out there. You couldn't not, you know, so it was in there. Sort of rod sorted to the left, fishing towards like there's a wee cut boat that's sort of moored up on the island around that area, one out in front. Like I say, 3 different spots, and sort of the spots were well spread. All baited, and yeah, just sort of went off from there really. I'd had 2 and lost one just before dark on that first day on my left hand rod up against the island. 9 o'clock in the morning, left hander had gone again. I caught a couple of stocky ones, real scaly sort of recent additions. Middle rod gone, the one that sort of fished out towards the central area of the gap, clearly a better fish. There's no weed out there at all, and it's sort of like grating and gone solid, and then it's took a bit and sort of come back. And where they've sort of been and done a lot of clearing off the island, trimming brambles and whatever crap, sort of sank down there and jumped in the boat, got out to it, just pung off something, no problem at all. And yeah, as soon as I seen the boat, recognised it as one I'd had in before. Big sort of nondescript, chunky mirror, 34.5 he was. Nice result. Again, left-hand rods going sort of throughout the day. The biggest that came to that rod was a 27-pound. Lovely mirror, big sort of scale, blistered all over its belly. But that middle rod again, and it was a spot that I've caught a few big ones from in there. Pretty sure I hooked and lost one of them big linears from it. The unit from there, one they call sort of Susan Boyle, the big ghosty. 2-toe mirror, you know what I mean? Some big 30-pounders from this one particular spot. It sort of raises up out there quite a bit as you're sort of in the boat and it's got good clarity. See it sort of coming up from 7/8 to sort of 4 foot on top of this a little bit. I decided for my last night I was going to put 2 rods out onto that area and sort of like, although I had 14 bites that trip and I think 11 of them from this left-hand island. Both rods were put onto this big fish spot. And, I remember doing it, I remember seeing the rigs sort of plop 6 foot apart that night. If there'd been a big crosswind, you know, you put an extra 2 wraps on, smash them out there, hit the clip as hard as you can, rod tip down. And like I said, with no weed, obviously you can get your lines back round, sweet. It was probably 20 minutes, half an hour of light left. And then there could be tips wedged right under, and I'm just lifting my tips up to sort of see how my lines were pointing. And they were clearly sort of going in and touching. Disaster, you know what I mean? 170 yards out, if they're doing that off the tips, there's clearly something gone wrong out there. Sort of put them back down, hesitated for a minute and just thought, no, if one of them goes, he's definitely going to pick up the other rod. I need to do this now. And as soon as I picked up the left-hand rod, started winding really quickly. Deed. That turned into ripping 100 yards of line off, retying the leaders on, re-wrapping everything back up. I think one of the up points of bird as well, so a new rig on there. And yeah, smash, big crosswind, the wind never dropped at all. Half an hour, a load of swearing later, and that'll do. That's going to have to do. The whole session was just, you know, like I say, it was a mental trip. 6 or 7 hours sleep, sort of in the last 40 hours. Absolutely exhausted, especially with a big belly full of Chinese, and crashed out. Early hours in the morning, I've sort of deep out the bag, and I've sort of woke up, or waking up, sort of holding the rod. And it was very sort of different from the rest, you know, although the low weed, shallow water, they pull your arms off. I picked the rod up and it's just going and going and going and going. But to the point where I thought, this can't be a carp, it's going too fast. It's just flying. And the battle just continued from there, really. Left, right. I'd gained 10, it'd take 20. You know, at some point, there must have been nearly 200 yards of line out of the pond. A lot of geese, and obviously I've been really active with it being spring. So a lot of the battle, you sort of tips to the side, trying to keep, there's a lot of line obviously out of the water, so keep all that under the water. And it was just, you could see really, really heavy. And when it was going, there was literally just, you know, you go in and just try and slow it down. But yeah, eventually, but I remember it being about 100, 120 yards out it must have been. And it's almost gone solid. Like I said, they've been a really sort of weighty fish, but with using the lighter monos, you know, you're always sort of reluctant to lean into them. A little bit, great. And I thought, oh Christ, no, it must have picked up one of the other rods. Nothing's happening, you know, no bobbins moving. The only thing I could think it would be is someone's crack off or spit a line out there or something. But then it just ping, felt it come off, and the fish just sort of kited left, so down the margin with the chesty, just well away from the other lines, sweet. Can't go in left, next thing, tink, yeah. Obviously it's pitch black at this time, 2-3 o'clock in the morning. No head torch on or anything. Tink, leader knot's just gone through the tip, everything's good. It's close now, and it was literally just absolute textbook, just a mass on the surface, just sort of kept wallowing, net under it, and it was one of them, the net's sort of, deep, hit it, and it sort of hit the back end of the fish, and with that, tail sort of hanging out the back, lifted it up, just thought, this is one of them, this is what it's got to be one of them, it's a monster, and I sort of got it to the back, Dan's coming around with his torch, and then we shine on it, and bang, common, I thought, really surprised me, I was expecting one of these great long linears, it really was. I thought there's only one thing that can be, absolute colossal thing, frame, length, everything to it, and yeah, sorted it all out, zeroed the sling, hoisted them up there. Petty's common, £46, 10 ounces, absolute blown away. Such an epic creature, and its length, its power, spotless mouth, real rare one. I suppose that's why you do the distances and the sort of the amount of driving and hours sat behind the wheels that they do. Moments like that, all the graphs, all the times you think, I can't do this anymore. It's just, you look at the realisation of it, 50, 60 tickets, 2 or 3, 4 carp that you really dearly want to catch. Might do 1, 2 captures a year tops. You think, what are the chances of actually me catching them? But I suppose, you chase your dream, you keep going, and, it's moments like that that we do it for.